What's up, everybody?
What's up, dude?
What's going on, Chris?
To be honest, I'm freaking tired, man. I'm beat traveling, but good. Other than that,
Dude, I'm tired too.
how are you?
That's I'm good, man. Down in Miami.
Oh, yeah,
So
you're down in Miami?
yeah,
Oh, cool.
it's down here for a couple days. So been in Florida for a week. It's been good. Just training, training, training. How's that? Where are you coming in from? You just got back today.
Yeah, Texas. We were down at the ranch. We had our kind of yearly end meeting, go over a bunch of stuff for the company. We put on a class for Elias County, their transition class, but it was a good trip.
Is that what you call it now? The ranch.
The ranch, Staccato, Texas.
That's like your home range, dude.
Yeah,
Well, I say we just jump into this. So I've
yeah,
seen
hit it.
some like interesting things today. A couple of conversations I had offline, couple videos that were pretty interesting, talking about kind of specifically the tactical training world. I know you've seen this before, um, where guys talk about like why would you go learn this from this person if they've never done it, blah blah blah. And there was a analogy that was used I've heard before, like you wouldn't ask a virgin for recommendations on how to have sex, right? Because they've never done it before. And I think that's kind of a difficult thing, probably a necessary thing, at least makes for an interesting um, conversation where, because you have a lot of these old hats, right? You've got, fill in the blank, former whoever, whatever, uh, that are saying stuff. And then when you challenge those ideas, the default is always, well, what selection have you gone through? How many people have you killed? Or whatever nonsensical bullshit that they're talking about, right? And there's some notable guys that I think a lot of people from a legacy standpoint have trained with. And I had a few conversations today with guys who have taken those classes, and across the board, everyone I met, like it was complete nonsense bullshit. So how would you recommend, or like, how do you in your career, like, how are you assessing or sifting through all of the bullshit that is in this tactical training industry?
I think because you sent me that one video and I watched it, right? And I watched the whole thing and I'm like, I kind of agree with him, right? But then I
Hmm.
had to reflect on it and I'm like, well, I'm agreeing with it because I'm looking at it from my lens and he's saying something I absolutely agree with. But if you've misconstrued it, it's unless they've done it, it's taking the wrong thing because the shooting part is separate than the killing part. That's what we try to explain to our guys. Like shooting is not killing people. Shooting is just shooting guns, shooting paper. You can kill animals with it, people with it. Killing people is its own thing with a brick, a knife, a gun. And what we're trying to get to understand is we're just trying to teach you how to shoot, not when to shoot. And if you make that decision or that decision is forced upon you, this is the way we want you to shoot. This is going to be more effective for you. And then we also try to temper it with if you're talking about a gunfight, right? That's where I think it splits. If you're having a shooting class and you're talking about gunfighting, if you haven't been in a gunfight, why are you even bothering reference it? You could have absolutely valid material and it could be of great use to the student, but the likelihood of them shooting somebody is low if it's just your regular open enrollment class. And it's not what it's about. They're trying to learn a skill. And you could teach the best shooter in the world, you give them all the time in the world, and they may not have the mental bandwidth to actually do it or survive doing it mentally. You know what I mean? Like that's its own thing. And tactics have nothing to do with killing. Like if that's where, but when guys stand on that one thing, well, have you ever killed anybody? Well, yes. Have you been to a selection? Yeah. So am I now qualified to do whatever the hell I want to do? I would say no, right? And it,
Yeah, and I think
am I
it's
making sense?
you are, and I think it's a really hard, because I would say, like, one part of me is like there are plenty of you know, quarterback locker room coaches who have never thrown a Super Bowl touchdown pass.
Hmm.
Does that make them not qualified? You know, and
No,
that might be a bad analogy, but then we talk about this thing, you know, the tactical training space or the training space, you know, at what point do you do you demand like your instructor is a good practitioner first and foremost?
I think that should be always, right?
Now,
At least not, maybe not even to your level, because that's, I think we looked at that disparity between the ability to observe and coach and identify. Because I think what it breaks down to is we want people to understand shooting is a process. And the more you understand the process and the more you've refined it to what you need to do to the gun to get the behavior that you want, that process is what's going to make you successful, no matter what you're doing, shooting a match or whatever. So, but the process doesn't have anything to do with the outcome. So, like a swing coach for a professional golfer may not be able to win, the freaking Ryder Cup, but he can find those tiny things and cues to help that guy win it. And I'm pretty sure every coach they've ever had, as far as like a specific aspect of their swing, a putting coach, an actual swing coach, someone to teach them how to read wind, hasn't won that championship either, but they're awesome at understanding it. But
dude,
they don't talk
there's
to them about winning championships, right? They talk to them about swinging the club and how to perfect
yes,
that.
and that is where you see even at the best golfers in the world. It's funny you take the golf analogy. I love it. But even the best golfers in the world, right? So Tiger Woods, when he was winning everything circa 2000 and he is unstoppable, still had a golf coach,
Yeah.
right? And I would say even at any point along his career, like there's going to come a threshold where like you're beating your coach. But that is, that's golf, that's understanding of mechanics, of coaching, of teaching. Does that, and I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is my view. I'm asking this as a question, right? And for anyone in the comments, does that apply when we're not talking about golf? We're talking about something that people would perceive as a little bit more serious, right? At what point do you demand that your instructors are good practitioners? And then I would ask this question: can you be a low performing practitioner but still be a good instructor in this thing?
I I don't think you can be a low performing of a skill. I think if at one point you have to have been able to do it at a high level and you may no longer physically be able to do it, like race car drivers, right? They cannot sustain those G's. They can't do that on the track anymore, but they know that thing like the back of their hand. They've won 8 world championships in their past, and those are the dudes they're not going to get specific driving cues for a modern car. They're going to get the mental work for winning a championship. Like you see, like you know what I mean? They're separate things because he has been there, he has done it. He can't do it anymore. But if you've never been able to perform at a high level, just understanding something, I don't think that can exist. I don't think you can really understand different cues for different people and different ways to reach a certain shooter if you've never even explored it on your own to get to a higher level. Am I
No,
like,
I agree with that. I think too that like you can't coach anyone or identify mistakes that you haven't already made yourself extensively.
yeah,
I
and
just don't.
observed in others?
Yeah. I mean, I think before you observe it in others, you have to like the same thing that we're promoting in like training nonstop is like, hey, tie cause and effect together. You have to recognize the mistake, immediately when it held on. I got to
Mm.
shut this off. This is driving me insane back here.
Oh, the light.
That's all I'm staring at. You have to be able to, you have to be able to see and feel the mistake that you're making and then understand how to apply the appropriate cue as like step one before you can now see and feel that mistake or see that mistake in someone else and know the cue that they need, like what's causing it.
Right.
firmly believe that. Like you have to have made all of those mistakes over and over and over, and that is where your kind of ability to instruct, or your instructional, the art of instruction, whatever it is for you, whatever that means to you, is that you develop as a teacher, as a coach, as an instructor, to now fix guys that are making the same mistakes that you've already made.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was, I read that, like, kind of things to think about before we started. And I was thinking on, like, even medical, because we were talking about different stuff. Like, what things can you learn that probably should be dominated by the civilian sector versus LE or mill specifically? But there's some, like, talking to some of the PJ guys, like, if you want to learn EMT medical level stuff, you probably should go get that from an EMT in your city. If you want to learn actual trauma care from bullet wounds in an austere environment with limited supplies and all the things that those guys are going to deal with, you, I think, should be going to a guy like that, because they can tell you, out in the street, 15 minutes from a level one trauma, these are all the things that we do. But this guy can tell you, I've noticed this by actually patching, trying to fix this bullet hole. These are some problems that I ran into as it got dark and cold, and or this, and he can work you through things you're going to see happen better than that other EMT can. But you can get the same baseline medical training from that civilian guy. Is
Yeah,
that
I think
fair to say?
it is. I think you just start adding, you know, layers to the training, and different like variables and modifiers to the training environment, right? No one learns how to put an IV in in pitch black in the dark in a moving vehicle or helicopter or anything like that, right?
Yeah,
You
you
learn in
start
a
in the
very
table.
sterile environment, right? And learn the techniques. And hold on, getting a ton of messages right now. You learn that in that environment first, and then you start adding modifiers and layers to it. And I think I look at like shooting, and I still believe shooting is the foundation to any tactic, right? When we talk about like where you stand, or what you're hey, I go here, I do this technique or whatever in terms of a TTP, like that's the easy part. What happens when you're actually delivering the point of performance of work, that is the difficult thing.
Mhm.
And I think that gets trained in isolation, right? We're a little bit out of order here, but you brought it up, a good thing, like there's this whole tactical training industry or world, right? Um and and I believe, and this is the question I would ask you, what areas of it should be dominated by civilians that are the best in that field?
Well, I think if the foundation is shooting, it is dominated by civilians. So you start there, right? Shooting at a general level is dominated by civilians. And that is probably where the vast majority of the input should come from, is very experienced shooters who have demonstrated time after time the ability to exercise that under pressure. They've observed it in themselves. They've watched other shooters fall apart or beat them and found things that they were doing and learned from each other. But they know how to actually apply it and see if they can change. What if I change something here? Does it have third order effects or second order effects, or what I see on the target? They can understand different ways that can happen versus, well, you're healing or you're palming. Remember, you know, the old diagram, that's your baseline guy that doesn't understand anything. You give them a template to follow, and if they see A, it must equal B. But if you get someone who truly understands it, they're like, no, no, that can happen this way too. And in my experience, when that was happening to me, this is what I felt and saw, and here's how I corrected it. Why don't you try that? And if it isn't that, it might be this. And they can actually walk them through things they've experienced. But shooting would be one. I'm sure skydiving, I know it is. Um, Scuba diving,
Driving.
driving, uh, shit, I don't even know.
I mean, I think too, if you're gonna look for who is the best, like one thing that is prevalent in the tactical world, right? Especially law enforcement world, mechanical breaching, right? If we want to look at who are the best at getting through doors, in the most
Firefighters.
efficient way, it's firefighters
Yep.
with
And
hand
my old
tools.
guys.
Yeah, that's where you go to look. If I want to really understand like how a Halligan tool works and how I can use it the most effectively, I'm not going to look to somebody that carried it as a collateral duty for
Hmm.
X amount of years. I'm going to look to the firemen
Because they
that
invented it. It was
know, yeah,
literally a guy named Halligan that invented it as a firefighter.
yeah, that know how to use it all. But it goes back to that like good practitioner versus good instructor, right? And there's some good comments here, right, where guys are like they don't care if someone is incapable of demonstrating at a high level anymore. And I would probably disagree with that from a shooting standpoint because in terms of how we learn, or at least how I have learned, where watching someone do something at a very high level is what made it real, right? When I would see, competitive shooters and the practical shooting guys, and you see them in real time, in real life, demonstrate something, and you're like, well, fuck, I just watched it. Now that becomes a reality. That becomes something that I know is possible. And now I'm working to make what was impossible to me 2 minutes before the demo possible, and now make that to where that is just good, and that's something that I can do, repeatedly. I think that's the first way that you learn.
Yeah, the guy in the class will say, "All right, I'm going to demonstrate this in this time," and you're like, "That's not even possible." And then they do it, and you're like, "Show me how you did that, because I can't do that. How did you? How the hell did you do that?" And those dudes have gone down. Like when you talk about someone, that's I think the benefit of someone at the highest level of ability, way above me, right? Someone at the highest level of ability did not accident their way there. They went through trial and error, some faster than others, but they went through a path and they discovered a way that fit them. And at least, like Robbie Latham used to say, like if 90% of the best in the world do it a certain way or have a certain process, there's a 90% chance it's going to work for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like who is dominating, you know, the long range shooting world, or, the sniper world,
Yeah, the PRS dudes.
it's not military dudes,
No.
right? And I think, you know, most military guys, the most like eye-opening long range stuff I'd ever seen or heard came from a guy that had nothing to do with the military, right? Like Todd Hodnett
Yeah,
was
odd nut.
unbelievable, right? And I think, even guys that are, post-military, but, PRS, and this would also beg you guys say like, don't take this from civilian. Like there is no military tactical training industry. Everyone in it is a civilian.
Yeah.
So it should be more not about what you used to do and like, well, what are you doing now? Right? You look at like the Hat Creek guys. Like I would say when anyone asks me if I'm gonna look for information, I'm gonna sift through kind of the bullshit or what I would perceive to be bullshit or kind of the nonsensical things and go straight to the guys that I believe would answer the question. Right. And that's where I think a lot of the social media side kind of corrupts and messes everything up because from what you've seen, do you see more useful information or kind of like marketing style garbage information?
I don't know. I've kind of gotten past trying to judge it. I know I'm going to answer that, but let me hit something I saw go by. One of the guys mentioned Scotty Peterson and the AMU guys, right? There are rare birds who go out there, but I think even Scotty would recommend if you wanted to learn steep angle shooting or cross canyon shooting, you go to Hat Creek, right? You want to learn deep in ballistics and other stuff, you go talk to Todd Hodnett. And Scott's classes, when we hang out and shoot, he's not talking about shooting anybody. He's talking about mastering that gun and reading wind, and he's just talking about shooting. Same thing he does when he teaches other higher level units, or even did that in the army. This is just about shooting. You go figure out how to apply it. I'm going to teach you how to do it. But as far as everything else goes, I think a lot of it is marketing. I think it's people who are probably good at one, they are probably really good at one thing, but they want to encompass it into so much more. They want to be a sole source provider. They want to be able to give you anything you want when they really have, and I'd even put myself in that camp. There's certain things that I know I'm very good at. At least I feel like I am. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest shooter in the world. I'm not even close, right? But I think I'm a pretty good coach and I've reached a decently high level. Breaching, I'll stand up against anybody with that. Baselines on tactics, police use of force, all those things, those are areas that I excel in, right? But I'm not going to go out and teach like an open area movement course, even though I've done that. I didn't do it enough to have all the things that I should be thinking about.
Yeah. There's no, and I agree with that. It's like knowing like where it fits in to your experience and your experiences like firsthand. There's a comment in here that I don't agree with. You know, it says um one guy's disagreeing with one of the other comments. I'm sorry I didn't read the first one. It says shooting is absolutely related to killing. And I'm like, it's 100% not.
No,
There are more, I would say I have shot more targets by a factor of hundreds and hundreds of thousands than I've shot more people. Like that is not it's it's not related in terms of how you're training it. When you're training shooting, I'm practicing this one thing, right? I'm trying to get as good with a tool and trying to be as efficient as I can, as aggressive as I can, accountability, control, performance, all of the things that you try to inject into your training for whatever you're going to take that the reason you're on the range for and what you're going to apply it to, right? If you look at it from under the lens like, no, this is directly related to this, you have already applied a glass ceiling and have gotten into a box that you're never going to get out of from the performance side. Because shooting, like there are plenty of people that shoot and train and shoot guns that have no interest in getting good at that for the sake of engagements or application. So I think it's a hard art. It's a hard discussion to have. It's
yeah.
where you direct, like why are you training?
I think I think that's the point. Like, identify the skill that you want to build. So if you want to, if I said we're going to do a high angle skyscraper assault course, right? So we're going to assault a 30-story apartment complex, and you're going to start on the roof, or you're going to start on the 25th floor, and you're going to rappel to the 23rd. So we build the systems for everybody. We just take them right out there, and they rappel down, and they enter the freaking balcony of that one, and they go in. Like, that's too much. That's a billion things put together. Shooting, breaching, repelling, system building, all that stuff. And then medical, it's all stacked up together. Which one of those parts do you understand the least? And then you go to like a Sprat climber or one of the guys that does all the certifications for the buildings and go, how do you build systems up here? What ropes are you using? What descenders are you using? What's the best way for us to go about doing this? And they can show you, well, here's the number one way. This is the safest way. And as long as you don't violate any of these other things, you could build a system as simple as this that'll carry two guys. Is that going to serve your purpose? Yeah, show us how to do that. And then you just master building that system. You figure that out and master it, and then you can start applying it into whatever else you want, just like shooting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you have to do those things in isolation.
Yeah. Climbing, go to climbers. Like, I don't know who else you're going to go to, but free solo freaking dudes to learn how to free solo.
So there was a conversation, today that I talked to a guy about that he had with Paul Howe, who is a lot of guys will say, hey, well, that's who we went to back in the day, whatever. And Paul cannot get out of his own fucking way with a selection process or whatever, some
Killing people.
used to could shit that he used to do, right? And I would challenge him like you're not willing to have those conversations with people with the same backgrounds and understanding, right? It's the worst echo chamber, right? And as fast as you have that conversation, you go make a YouTube video and you want to be the hero in your own YouTube video, but at some point it's like, hey, let's have a conversation then about your it's if you want to talk about combat and selection, cool. Talk to somebody that has all of those things, and then let's see like why did I develop the way that I developed, and why did you develop the way you developed, and have a conversation about
Yeah.
that.
You can ask people, have you ever experienced something like this? And if you haven't, you just say, no, dude, but I've experienced something like this. Would that fit? I think you and I we shot 2 or 3 times on the range before we ever told stories to each other, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about? I think we were in
Yeah,
Mesa. And I don't think we've ever bullshitted around stories until years later, but because it's not relevant to the point that we're doing. The I don't know. I think we got weird on that. Like I think it started with Hunter and the or not Hunter. Who was that originally posted it? He's making that Paul's making fun of. It's irrelevant. But it was like the whole have you been to selection? Have you killed people? No, because we're talking about golf, bro. Like my backswing is horse shit. What am I doing wrong with my feet? Like it's we're trying to isolate one thing. Driving, right? Well, yeah, you drive this way and then you pull up to the building, you pin the car, and then you assault the car. I got to figure the driving part out first, bro. Like, who do we go for the driving part? How did we get to the point of a street jump with our cars on this car? What did you do? How did you get good at doing that? We're not even to the car yet. Our guys can't drive, right?
yeah.
That's the isolation part.
So here's a good. So I pinned a comment that that Tom Kyer had made about, hey, if the source of the information is good, what does it matter where the background is? And in this like guys that are very focused on the tactical training industry, right? The background of the instructor is a direct correlation to the quality of instruction. That's 100% not true, right? And then he goes on to say the issue is instructors don't credit the OG source of credible information, what leads us to us now. Okay, so the OG source of the credible information for application in terms of engagements and shooting, adversaries, the people that did, they're all dead,
Yeah,
right? The if you look at terms of who did the actual real fighting, like we got to go back to the early 1900s of engagements and things like that. We're talking about there's now this. I think a lot of guys within the tactical training space, there are conflated experiences, right? Or inflated experiences that are like, hey, I've done this and I've done that and I've done all this stuff. We had a guy on the other night who was like terrorizing the cops, like, yeah, let's have him come on. And he just starts talking. It's like, I've done all this and that, whatever. Like, there's no one that can either validate that or disvalidate that. But what I know is that the people that I know personally that have done all of this stuff for real, they don't sound like you, right? So I don't think it's like the that you have to be experienced in a thing to be able to teach it, right? And maybe not college level stuff, right? There's plenty of experts in a given field that have
hmm
little to no experience in that field, right? College professors are huge in this, right? I'm a theoretical, you know, forever student, forever been PhD and everything, but you've never done anything. And then if you say, well, I have all these papers published, like, but that's not really like that's field work off of very low data sets. And that's where I think the tactical industry starts to you start to see a lot of this where it's like, okay, I've got a very small data set of one or two deployments, and I'm gonna create all this experience based off of that. And like, how do you sift through that as somebody, as a consumer, somebody that wants training, right? Whether it's for personal reasons or an agency or a department or whatever, then it goes back to like, are you marketing that experience that nobody can prove or disprove? Where I think you have to look at like, well, what is the quality of the information? Like, how are you conveying that? And then that's where demonstration comes. Like, what are you doing now? right? Like jiu-jitsu is a good like
Yeah,
black belts will show you
they'll show you the hard way. Yeah,
exactly why they're black belts. You know what I mean? And I think in the shooting world, there's a lot of guys that are, progressing and developing, and there's data and metrics out there in terms of like wins and finishes and practice score. Like you can see it. You can see a good representations of how that guy was on that day against a field of competitors, right? That combined with what he's able to demonstrate and the way he's able to convey information, that's a good litmus test of like, yeah, hey, this is pretty good. I firmly believe that from the teaching the performance side of shooting or shooting for people that carry guns for a living, like you have to be able to do that in absence of stories.
because they're irrelevant to that task. I still firmly believe that. J- The ability to shoot or demonstrate or coach someone shooting doesn't have anything to do with killing people. It's showing how the tool works. Like that, it is that simple. How does this tool work, and how does it work the best? Because you could kill somebody with a golf ball, right? You could get that good where you could hit somebody in the freaking head with a golf ball. I'm sure some of these dudes on the tour could figure that out. Where if you said, "Here, hit this square," 40 yards away with the golf ball, they punch holes through it with a golf ball. So like the tool isn't the thing. If they start talking about that, that's its own thing. That's a mental fortitude in the moment. And don't tell me you'll see red and be able to do it because that's probably true. But can you survive it mentally afterwards? Do you understand why you're doing it? And that's where it gets into like case law training. And that's one thing I'll bring that up. There's a lot of people that talk about use of force. I know this isn't shooting, but use of force in general. They talk about case law, they talk about procedure, they talk about policy, but they've only got one view from where they're at, right? And how that has applied or hasn't applied, and what has and hasn't worked. But when we start, if they don't understand it deeper, right, those simple decision making things based on law and policy, how that applies to law enforcement, I think that's where a lot of it gets lost too. When you get to these bigger classes about, well, CQB or assaulting a building and planning a search warrant, when they're not really understanding the limitations of their students and why their students want to know it. So if you get asked a question like, well, hey, can we do it this way? And the guy's like, well, that's just what we do. And I've heard instructors say that. Well, what about this situation? Well, I don't know, man. This is just how we do it. Well, this is not going to fly here. I got to know if I can legally do this. Can I justify this in the end? Or are we just trying to figure out another method? But I think we're bad students in general in LE. I think we're bad students because we look to someone as they know everything about this. I'm just going to do what they tell me to do. But we aren't good enough students to take it back, assess it, and go, only these two things apply to us. Let's play with them for a while and see if they still fit. Because the rest of what we learn today, either we're not capable of doing on a skill level, or it doesn't apply to us legally, and we have restrictions on the ability to even do that. There's people who will change their entire TTPs for a SWAT team because they took one class. I don't think that's appropriate at all, right? You may have found something you believe to be a better way of doing things, but you haven't now vetted it in your own environment and actually tested it out. You've just decided that you're going to do it this way.
How many teams or individuals have you seen that are willing to change TTPs or way of doing business off of one incident?
Lots. Yes. And I know my team was guilty of it for a bit too.
And
Get, sh- get,
what do you
Go ahead.
think drives that?
Fear. I think it's well, the some of the things change for fear, and I think other things change for it's the shiny new object. Um, what you're doing isn't not working; it's successful, but you find a new way and go, this is going to be more successful because of either an imaginary boogeyman, right? If this happens, this seems like a logical choice, although we've never experienced it or been able to change it, right? To see if it actually makes a difference. And then the other ones are you get shot at one time through the walls, and now it's, well, we can't do that anymore. Like the one time, or you do a street jump and the guy starts shooting out the windows at you and hits two guys, right?
Yeah.
Like just because it went bad once doesn't mean you did it wrong. It just means that time the odds were not in your favor.
No,
That's
I think there's plenty of times where you can, you know, in this. business or this thing, you can do everything right and still lose.
You're still fucked. And you can do everything completely wrong, take your pants off, and walk in the room backwards naked and still win, right? And that's a cultural thing I know a lot of us have talked about, Nelly. You could,
Naked, naked.
naked, you could
We
still
can
win.
get naked.
Yeah, at least you and me can. But that's the way we kind of view things. It's all that what was the outcome? If it was good, we did a great job. If it went suboptimal, things went sideways and then went bad, we must have screwed up. No, you were doing exactly what you should have been, and you just luck of the draw got screwed. Because none of it's safe. When we start talking about guns and tactics and shooting people, there is no such thing as safety, right? It's not safe. But you can increase the odds in your favor, right?
Yeah. So how would you recommend, for guys, how do you sift through kind of the bombardment of information and everything that's out there? How do you tailor that to what you need as an individual, or what you want as an individual, what your team may need, or your department? Like, how do you, or do you even look to that? Because what I see a lot of is bona fide guys, teams, guys that do this for a living are looking to YouTube and and social media for like TTP development.
And I don't know what drives that. I think it's just the way we consume information now is through lives like this, and we're having a discussion, so hopefully wake people up to it. We're not telling you what to do. But what I think they should do is either identify specific tasks and then look at that task and is it broken down even simpler? Like I said about like assaulting an apartment building from the roof or from an alternate floor. Hey, if we got to do that, how many pieces of that do we need to figure out and who's going to be the best to train us at it? And is it really a problem now or are we just looking for the shiny object? But what if? Well, what if the bad guy has an odds? Shit. Now we got to get, now we got to get a glass, a glass shield to defeat his thermal. We got to get like, it's all the what ifs versus that most likely course of action. What do we typically run into? Is what we're doing able to solve that? And if it did go sideways, do we have a solution for it? Like you want
One
to
of
like this, one of the simplest things we ran into that we needed an answer for was laminated side safety glass on cars. It was supposed to be around since the 80s, right? It was like a mandate, and then everybody was like, nah, piss off. And then slowly luxury cars started adding it in the 90s, and the Beamers and your Mercedes, and you'd go up and do like a vehicle extraction and just punch a hole in a window, and it's like, this is just a skinny windshield. And it was like, hey, how do we better deal with that? And how do we recognize it in cars ahead of time? And then eventually it just becomes simple. The dudes know what to look for, they know how to deal with it, they know what's expected of them. But that's actually identifying a problem and then asking who should teach us this. That's the hard part. Because I think most people, if you called them and say, hey, can you teach us how to deal with this? The answer is going to be yes. And they're going to go to YouTube and watch a video and try to figure it out and then teach you that because they've never dealt with it or done it. Whatever the thing is, I'm just using the windows as an option, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to be the guy with the answers. Or people want to be the guy with the answers and they can't say, fuck, dude, I don't know. I think you should probably give this guy a call. Maybe he could help you out. And the really good guys, I know they do that.
Yeah, I think if you can't answer the question, you try to find people that can. But in terms of like from the business standpoint, there are plenty of guys like, nope, we can do that.
That's what I mean. They want to be the
Or
guy with the answer.
yeah. So I think too, there's from the tactical training world, um, there's not a lot of bleed over in terms of tactics the from the military to the LE world, or even the military to the civilian world, right? Which talks about, one of the things we had talked about was, is there a civilian market for tactical training?
I bet
And
you there is.
what does that even look like?
I think it would be more like, I don't know. I think that would be a group of individuals who already have like a team and they hit up a dude like Felix or whatever, they're like, hey, we want to learn how to patrol stuff. I think they should be allowed to do that. Absolutely. But if you're going to do it, this is what it would look like. Here's what would also need to be supporting in it. Here's all the other stuff that goes with it. Because a simple patrol is actually can be fairly complex if you break it down into all the things that could happen, right? Why are you patrolling? What do you expect to run into? Like, but I think there is a market for tactics, especially in the church security. And I don't quite buy the whole like home defense thing, like how I'm gonna, clear my house going out. I, shit, maybe that exists. I know it exists. I know people are teaching it, but I think
The
civilians should be training. But like, what end? And is it a solo? I don't know what you're gonna do.
I think in terms of the civilians training, like guys with guns, the church security stuff is pretty interesting to where everyone seems to ignore, right?
The
They
shooting
they're
part.
they're looking at like the sum of all the parts, like, hey, if this happens, then this is where we go or whatever. But if you look at like the main, you know, part of the church, the main theater where they're the congregation where you're receiving your sermon or your service for that day, like some of those shots can be incredibly far and hard on moving targets
Mhm.
with a lot of stuff in between you and
And
the
that's
other
the
movement.
shooting part. Like the
That's
one in
where,
Texas, the guy did a great job, but like in my heart of hearts, I don't believe he aimed and hit that guy in the head. I think he missed and hit him in the head because that's just what I feel like. In my experience, watching a whole lot of shootings, that's what it looked like to me.
yeah, that's where I think the emphasis in the civilian tactical training market has to be hard skills,
Yes,
right? And then like that is never going to be a negative, right? The better and more efficient you can make the bullets go where you want them to go, you can apply that to a lot of different situations, right? It
absolutely.
doesn't it doesn't have to be this large production of like, well, if this happens, then we're going to do this. Now there's probably some procedural things like, hey, if you've got the ability to lock all the doors, right? We have a guy come in the church and we hear shooting at the beginning. Can we lock the doors of the room we're in?
Yep.
Right? Because I think for most active shooter type situations, they're not capable or ready to breach doors, right? Maybe shoot through them or whatever. So there is a piece of that, like, hey, get everybody. We can lock these doors and we can barricade defensively from this position, right? There's huge value in that. But if you talk about the guys that are going to now fix the problem on the civilian side before law enforcement can show up, or be the enablers or the enhancers that help to fix the problem. That
They got
goes
to be able
back
to.
to the shooting piece.
Yeah, they got to hit what they're aiming at, not
Part,
increase the casualty count. And that goes for the cops too, right? The cops have increased the casualty count on several occasions, and that wasn't the right solution. So I hate like that part of it, the shooting part of it. If you, this is how I would word it. If you think, because everybody wants to talk about killing, right, and gunfighting, okay, cool. If that is your intended purpose for learning it or having it, then you better get good with it because it's a very high stakes environment, right? And I think most people say they understand that, but I don't think they do. It's if that's your purpose for having it, then you need the skills to do it. Because you can take all the classes on pying, point of domination, freaking breaching, and all that stuff you want. But we've said it a million times. If you can't deliver the actual solution solving aspect of it, it doesn't matter how you got there. If you kill
dude.
somebody else, it's
Yeah,
like too bad you did get there.
yeah. It's an hour long discussion on where to stand in the room, where to do whatever, and everybody likes to play the what if game,
Right.
right? And I always answer, what if you can just be technically perfect at the TTP you want to use?
It's definitely better than trying to figure your way through some bullshit.
Yeah, let's start there. And then what if you can be as aggressive and accountable and in control when the shooting starts. Like, let's focus on those two things,
Mhm.
right? And I would leverage the shooting piece of it way more than I would leverage the where I stand in the room piece of it, right? But the thing with like the tactical training world, the where I stand is very difficult to measure, and it's easier and more fun and enjoyable in terms of training. Right up to the point where now you're actually doing that training to where you're getting reps. And you hear it with all of the part-time SWAT teams or any SWAT team. Like, we just don't get enough reps. And then you create a situation in training where you're like, this is what we're doing is reps. When you start to see guys get bored, it's like, these are the reps you wanted. This is what the reps look like. Like, training is very boring and monotonous, right? And now the focus becomes the like the work of training is how dynamic and how aggressive while maintaining control can you be on the fourth run, the fifth run, the sixth run, the 12th run, the 20th run before
And
the
where does it
setup changes.
degrade? Yeah, where does it degrade? And now the setup changes, and now the stick order changes, and now you're not used to this dude. And it, like, I don't know, CQB. I'm honestly so sick of freaking CQB and silliness. Like, it's like just do whatever you want to do, man.
But
It's
even
all a shit show in the end.
in terms of like the, you know, the gunfighting world or that application, the first question is like, when was the last time you got into a fight? Whether it's controlled in a gym or for real. Like, so let's remove gun from it and let's focus on fighting. Like, you want to be aggressive and fight. Like, have you fought lately?
Dude, that
Like,
was
what
one of the
it
funnest things about SOCP was we didn't shoot a damn thing. We just got beat up and had to hold grown ass men against the wall who did not want to get held against the wall. Like, you know what I mean? And that's its own freaking thing. And I've asked that guys before, like, oh, have you ever been opposed? And it's the answer is yes. And I tell them, like, let me ask you this: is this opposition? You're going in on this search warrant, right? And you're doing your thing, and the 78-year-old grandma comes out in her moo right, and starts motherfucking you up one side and down the other, and beating you with a flip flop. Like, you ever dealt with that? Because what are you gonna do? Beat her ass? No, right? Like that's a cool scenario I think to throw at a SWAT team is have old grandma come out and hit him with a flip flop and see if they can handle her with, kid gloves and just control her and get her to where they want to go without breaking her or ripping her skin off and continue on with the mission. But a lot of that stuff, like that's where it gets sideways is the first hiccup, the first locked door usually causes the biggest problem. Like all the doors are open, everybody's like, all right, we've mastered it. Close one door and watch everybody like, oh shit, I forgot what I was going to do. So like even breaking that down, what to do with the door, where to go with the door, what's expected of you, and what do you expect of others, until you've got that mastered down, like, why does any of it matter?
Yeah, so I think in that world from like the TTT stamp or TTP standpoint, it's like, let's stop with the what ifs and show me that you can be technically perfect in the most vanilla setup
Yeah, do that.
over and over and over. And then we can build from there. Then you can add variables. But you want to play this, you know, theoretical, hypothetical threat game. Like, let's talk about like just execute perfectly when there's nothing in your way. Then when that starts running in the background, the same way that I advocate huge for like the shooting piece just needs to happen. You got to develop that foundation, right? It's the best analogy that no one understands. I don't is build a fucking foundation that can support a fucking 20,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you only, from a TTP standpoint, have to build a 5,000 square foot house. The house will be stable and last through any storm that you're going to see. But it's foundational stuff. And when you go into that tactics world, stop playing the what if game. Can you be technically perfect?
Yeah.
Can you be technically perfect while still delivering the point of performance of work of what has to happen in that room? You know, that to me is the basic training methodology that guys have to follow. Not all the other shit where you get wrapped around like the application piece, it's shooting, killing. You've never killed anybody. Like, man,
Let me
that's
hit
not what we're doing here.
let me hit something real quick. I don't know Duke, but dude, I've never beat a grandma's ass in my life, and we've run into him before, and that's where you just stay real calm and say, "Ma'am, come with me," and you move her out of the way. It's not a hostage rescue; it's a search warrant for some freaking dope or a computer or something stupid. It isn't handling people with kid gloves. Grown ass man gets in the way, he's going to get handled like a grown ass man. But the women, and the weak, we don't abuse them, right? You handle them very professionally and move them because we are grown ass men and actual SWAT team dudes. We're not fucking animals, but we treat animals like animals, other than dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that comes down to like when the confidence is there because guys are trained, right? And they're very developed and they understand kind of the order of battle or the progression of how this target should look, right? It's not a surprise to anybody what's the next thing, right? And that would be like step one to becoming actually efficient.
yeah,
Now we don't have to talk, everyone knows what we're doing. We all came down the same hallway, we went into this room. Two guys went in the other room. We saw the other rooms. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody when that room is very vanilla and there's nothing in there, what the next thing is. We don't need to talk about that.
yeah,
Someone just springs into action and the other guys support, And that's where I think the 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 baseline like tactical training world needs to go. And then whatever you want to do, like whatever you want to train, by all means train it, right? But understand, are you putting the cart before the horse, right? Are we focused on, and a lot of guys will want to learn SUT, but
yeah.
they don't want to go do a 5-day patrol.
No,
Well, how do we
I don't
pressure
want to do it.
test like where you learn it, right? You're gonna initially learn like IMT in isolation, like how you move as an individual and how
Mhm.
those individual movements feed into a team. And then the team is going to play into now we're all together. How do we move the whole bigger team together? And then we take another team and
Yep.
the only way to do that is we have to do a long patrol. I mean, I think that's like the doctrinal training approach that any SUT or tactics, small unit tactics type course is is doing. But all of that, feeds into, do you have the foundation that supports it? And a lot of guys you won't initially, but it gives you, hey, I'm weak on this. I take that back to the range. I take that back to the individual tools that I need to use, and I work on that stuff in isolation.
Yeah.
And I think
What
a
was
lot of
the? Go ahead. Sorry.
I think a lot of guys will will blow through the isolation training piece, and then they want to jump right into kind of the more interesting and fun part of training is how I would describe it.
Yeah, I think you have to do it. Like you can't say, "All right, you've got 2 years to get good at this." And then you can go to step two, like those leveling, kind of intermixing everything, where we're like we're working on this and now we're working the door on the house, now we're working this, and you have to. And I think this is, I'm speaking strictly from the LE side. The big one of our biggest faults is we'll train firearms, train firearms, train firearms, and then when they go into the village or they go into the house, the housing structures, when they're learning on paint, they're using blanks now, or back then we were using blanks, and they're like, yeah, we don't care, we just want to make sure they're getting the movement stuff down. And it's like, no, we have to make sure they're doing those movements at a speed that can support their ability to shoot. So if they're just going in there and blasting, it's like we're beating ourselves on two sides of a thing. We're not training them shit. Training, it's very critical. You're accountable for your rounds here, and over here it doesn't matter. So it's like it's that whole idea of training. Like, when are you ready to take the next step? And it should be an introduction as soon as possible, but it can't be at the levels where down in Texas, whatever that was, alert. And I heard tales of, we just got to get them in the room and get this training on and show them where to go. But the targets are like an absolute abomination where the wall's shot 4 feet away from it.
Yeah,
Where it's like, well, where did that bullet go?
I think, yeah, and say it's on blue in the face, right? You you train marksmanship in absence of tactics. I don't believe tactics belong anywhere on the
No,
range.
no.
Um, but you cannot train tactics in absence of marksmanship, and the latter happens more frequently than anything else. Like we don't care. We just want to get this done. It's like, well, you're not hitting shit, right? Gunfights are shooting problems. You have to solve those with a shooting solution, not a where I stand solution. Like that can be an enhancement, but you can shoot into position, out of position, right? And understanding that whole thing. And maybe that does feed into like guys need to have experience in that to be able to convey those messages, correctly in terms of what's important, or at least what I believe is important. Um, but it is, and for everyone listening, like this is a conversation that we're having about things we've seen. It's not, hey, this is the answer, right? I
Yeah,
have my own answers that I believe are true in the way that I decide to train, in the way that I decide to continue to develop myself and get better and better at this, for the reasons that I need. And I think those reasons are unique to each individual person, right? What I would just challenge guys to is apply some critical thought to it. Is that are you looking at the problem sets that you're training, or the problem sets that you think are your realistic threats, or your realistic reasons for you of why you're training? Are you doing it correctly, and are you doing it in the most efficient way so that you develop correctly without all of the extra bullshit on you that is probably, from my opinion at least, unnecessary.
yeah. I sure as hell don't have a solution for it. I wish, like, solution wise, like, well, how do I know if I'm going to get good training or not? Fuck, man, I don't know. Like, I would hope the ability to reach out, like, even if you saw, you know, an instructor you're interested in taking a class from, if you post it on even IG, or you hit up another agency, especially agency specific stuff, and you say, hey, did you guys train with this guy? Yeah, what'd you think? What'd you get out of it? Right? And take it with a grain of salt, right? Oh, it was awesome. It was the best thing in the world. Hey, did you cover this? Like, you, us identifying what we want to know is the most important part. If you don't know what you want to know, then you're open to anything. And anything that's new is going to seem better. So you have to
Mhm.
identify where are we lacking in skill truly. Where can we identify something that we need to get better at, or do we have a problem we do not have an answer for, and we're out here looking for someone to give it to us? Like, until you do that, like, just saying I need more CQB training, I don't think is the answer. Can you do what you have? Like you said, can you do your current TTP perfect? And when you
Mhm.
guys do it perfect repeatedly, regardless of situation, weather, anything else, do you still do it perfect? And now you want to expand your knowledge base by learning something different or taking in a new idea and seeing how you can apply it to your own team. I think that's what we got to do. But I think we're just terrible about it in general as people. Like, I want to know how to plane wood right. Right?
Yep.
I kind of want to buy a wood plane and like make a smooth board. I don't know how to fucking do that. It'd be interesting, but I don't need to know that shit.
Yeah. No, you want to know it. Well,
I
we're,
want
we're
to know
right
it.
at we're right at an hour, Chris, man. That
Yeah.
shit, the time flew by. Appreciate the conversation. It's always good. And again, for everyone listening, it's just, hey, get everyone talking, looking at this stuff critically, sifting through the garbage and the bullshit in the tactical training space so that you can make good decisions, man. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this at the last minute. It's always good. Can't wait till I'm out in Arizona again, or that I can come to Staccato Ranch. I probably have to sneak in there, though. I think I may be banned.
I love you, man.
All right, man. Hey, Chris, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. Everyone that stuck with it, appreciate it. Uh, till the next time.
Cool. Later, guys.
Later.